Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 90s, a decade that shaped a generation. Definitely, maybe Oasis. But seriously, Phil Collins, these days, Bon Jovi, we all look back at the 90s music like it's out of time, REM. Some say it's a different class, Pulp. We are here to count down the top 10, Pearl Jam, albums of the 90s. Here's Neil, our fact hunter, to add a little spice, Spice Girls, to the pod. The man who, Travis, is about to give us 10 facts about 90s albums.
Thank you very much, pal. So, the biggest selling album in the UK in the 90s was, would anybody hazard a guess?
What's the story, Morning Glory?
Well done,
in the
pal.
UK.
In the UK, yeah.
Beat you to it, Leon.
In the UK. Yes, it was Oasis with What's the Story, selling a whopping 4.16 million copies. So, the biggest selling album in the world was, anybody care to guess?
Gotta be Nevermind, Nirvana.
No, it was Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Really? Okay.
Worldwide, Mariah Carey was the biggest selling artist of the 90s. The biggest selling touring band of the 90s was the Rolling Stones. The 90s has now overtaken the 60s in a recent poll of the decade with the best music. Blur and Oasis were so big in the mid-90s, at one time their fight to get to number one made the main headline news. Nirvana's pivotal song, Smells Like Teen Spirit, got its title from a deodorant. At 8 minutes and 57 seconds, November Rain was the biggest song to reach the longest song even, rather than the biggest song to reach the Billboard Top 10. Candle in the Wind by Elton John was the biggest selling single in the 90s. And Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams held the top spot for an amazing 16 weeks in 1991, a record that is still held. And there we are.
Thank you for those, Neil. Just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, let me please welcome our guest, Rock God, and the man who I wish I only had half of his hair. It's Leon Daye, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hello, Leon.
Thank you for having me on there.
Well, it's, we've come a long way from big cop action, haven't we? All those
I've got to ask, what were those little sound bites in between Neil's facts?
Can you remember when Barry Gibb played the legend?
It is that.
The legend stage at Glastonbury.
Like
and then he
did
like this random thing. He was on his guitar, and his wife was like side of the stage, and for some reason he turned and just went for no reason. And so I caught that clip for
I remember you telling me about that.
Oh my goodness. Right, so we are here to count down our top 10 90s albums. Now, music by very definition is subjective, and what one person likes, the other person hates. The fact there about that the 90s are taken over the 60s as the best decade for music, I don't get that. I honestly don't. This age thing, obviously, it's an age thing,
isn't it? And it'll be surpassed in a few decades' time by something else as well.
I don't know. Leon, would you agree with that the 90s is the best decade for music? For me, it's the 80s. I don't know whether that's...
Yeah, but that's difficult. I mean, it's the best decade for lots of different reasons for different people, isn't it? And the age that you're at is important, I think. For me, I'm with you on. I'm crossing over from probably the latter half of the 80s into the beginning of the 90s because of my age. I was just, beginning of the 90s. I'm 17, 18. Music's a massive part of my life. So you're really soaking it up then. But at the same time, that's a really bold statement to say the 90s has overtaken the 60s.
It was a recent poll. I mean, whether you believe
but that's the point. Who by there? Did anybody that was around listening to music in the 60s actually bother to go in that poll? Were they like, nah, can't be arsed?
They wouldn't know how to work out Twitter or anything.
I think the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, possibly a little bit of noughties have all equally had some amazing music in them. You know, oh Christ, I can't really judge. You can't. How can you?
When you play live, Leon, and you do your set of covers, primarily, what decade are your covers from?
Probably the 90s.
Because of
probably the 90s, because of that was when I was soaking up music more than anything else. But I play music right back into the late 50s because great music's been made since the late 50s.
Absolutely.
So I won't go as far as say I don't go much further than the early noughties though. So I'm gonna kind of answer that question without answering it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Leon does an evening of Little Peep covers.
Who the fuck?
I have no idea.
There you go. I'm down with the kids.
Is that the one with the sheep?
Very good.
Oh yeah.
Right, we don't give a shit about any other decade for this podcast episode. It's all 90s.
And there's no swearing to worry about either by the sound of it.
Oh, so fuck no.
No, that's cool. I'm glad I can say.
If you'd have just said the last podcast we've done.
It was all about swear words.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, don't worry. This will definitely. And again, because you're a rock god, I mean, I'm assuming that you're drinking neat whiskey or neat gin or neat vodka from that glass.
Smirnoff.
Smirnoff, yeah, of course, because you're, and I'm sure you've got groupies just out of camera level there. Just
of course.
I wouldn't expect any more.
Come here.
Right.
Anyway,
here we go then. Right. So we need number 10 for your top 10 90s albums. Leon, you can go first.
Okay. Top 10 for me is going to be Delamitri's Twisted.
Okay.
Which came out in 1995.
And what hits did it have on it? Is that the one with all the big hits?
The biggest hit off of it would probably, I think it was the first single, which was Roll to Me.
Right, okay.
Everybody remember Roll to Me?
Yeah,
very catchy, but probably less than 3 minutes long. So you would have had Roll to Me on it, Here and Now, Tell Her This, Driving with the Brakes On. It depends if you're a Delamitri fan. I mean, Roll to Me was the really big one that kind of, but it was, they hadn't stopped, recording, doing albums, but this was kind of the album that really pushed them back into the mainstream again.
So didn't that have Nothing Ever Happened on it then?
No, that's off of Waking Hours, which is the first album, I think.
Right, okay.
Or the early album. I think there was an earlier one than that, but it wasn't a mainstream release. I think Waking Hours was their big breakthrough, which is, I'm going to take a stab at this and say about 86, something like that. So we're talking, 10 years later. But it's crammed with amazing music. If you're not a fan, I'd say listen to it because it's got everything from the kind of acoustic folk almost type stuff and Justin Curry's amazing lyrics right through to proper good old bluesy rock and roll stuff. There's some amazing guitar work on there. It's got everything. It's a cracking album.
And they did one of the greatest football songs, that underrated football songs.
I fucking knew you were going to say
Don't
about
Come Home Too Soon. I bought that on.
I don't remember that.
Can't you remember it?
It was.
Yeah, it's not your Three Lions, and it's not all about attacking.
Sadly, they did come home too soon.
They
quite
did.
Shortly after its release.
It was the Scottish Cup song, and it was literally, you go off you go, but just don't come home too soon. But also, it's just a great song. It doesn't have to be a football song. Do you know what I mean? There isn't cheering and stuff like that, and it's a beautiful, beautiful song. It's one of my favorite. I like Delamitri. They did a session for, I think, Chris Evans on Virgin Radio about a month ago.
That's right. They got a new album out.
Sounded really good.
They are. They are great. Consistently great. I don't know how many original members there are now, but they're all getting up there now. But they're great. And
he still looks good. Justin Curry in it.
Justin Curry and Ian Harvey is the guitarist.
Yeah. Really good. Okay then, Neil, you're number 10.
U2's Achtung Baby.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only number 10?
Only number 10. But
Okay.
I found this list to be quite a hard list to draw. So what I went on is albums that I still listen to now, if that makes sense. Because there is so many classic albums. But U2's Acton Baby, I always remember buying it on cassette with a Virgin voucher or whatever it was, an R price voucher, and buying it on cassette, just completely being blown away by it because it was a complete departure for them, wasn't it? If you think after the Joshua Tree,
it's totally
Rattle and Hum, it was new, and they got their first number one off of it, didn't they? The Fly.
Yeah, The Fly. Yeah.
Was that number one? No, actually, that wasn't their first number one.
Oh, I thought it was. That's what I read.
No, the first number one was Desire.
Yeah, that was true. It was number one for 1 week, I think. The Fly.
Yeah. I can remember that being number one. But Mysterious Ways, what a great song! It's just loaded with great songs and timeless songs as well. I'm not always the biggest U2 fan, especially nowadays. Some of the stuff they.
See, I had the reverse because I've been a massive fan since the mid '80s. Yeah. And I loved like Rattle and Hum, Joshua Tree, and when that first came out, and I heard The Fly, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was really not keen at all. And it took me a little while and a bit of listening to and a kind of acceptance that they turned a corner and changed direction, and they were no longer the cool kind of like leather waistcoats, cowboys guys. They're all wearing makeup and sequins and shit. And I'm thinking, what's going on? But I actually revisit that album because I got it on vinyl. It was the last U2 album I bought on vinyl, I think, before. And it is. It's a good, solid album. There's some really good stuff on there.
I'm not going to say too much about it now because I've got it a little bit further up in my in my countdown. But my number 10, and a shout out to Joe, who left us a little comment on Facebook earlier on. Number 10 for me is Spice by the Spice Girls.
You shit.
No, well, and I'll tell you what.
It was a joke.
No, I'll tell you what. It's more for the fact that pop-wise, it summed up exactly what the 90s were.
Right. Okay.
And they were so big. I mean, I don't even think that the kids of today realize quite what a phenomenon
they were.
The Spice Girls were. And I can remember my kids like at that time all wanting those big platform shoes. Do you know what I mean? And the
dolls
and the dolls. They all had the dolls. It was mental how
it was marketing genius, really.
Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, it was. They all had their own image, their own little nickname. But if you also look at it just from the music point of view, there's some cracking pop songs on that album. All of their singles, I mean, again, perfectly chosen singles.
Yeah.
And it was all just a perfect package. I think just that album is a great snapshot in time of like the mid 90s of like where
96 was it?
I think it was around 95, 96. Yeah. So I know that Joe put on the chat earlier on, said, Leon, I hope you mentioned the Spice Girls. So Joe, I've got your back, mate. Number 10, Spice Girls, Spice. Okay, Leon, number 9.
All right, so before I go further, I'll say that a bit like what Neil was thinking, when I was compiling this list, obviously incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I just tried to think of albums that I literally, during that time and up to now, have played to death. Literally where I've worn cassettes out near enough and still love them as much today. So maybe controversially for the 90s, I'm going to go with an REM album for number 9, but it's not Automatic for the People. It's Out of Time.
Okay.
Because it was the first time I'd kind of heard bits and pieces of REM, The One I Love and End of the World. And of course, the massive single of this was Losing My Religion. And suddenly, all of a sudden, everyone seemed to be talking about REM and really taking notice. And there's the feel-good ones like Shiny Happy People, but I just love a radio song. It's just a great opener on that album. Near Wild Heaven and all the tracks that are on there. There's one called Me and Honey and things like that. They're just, nobody does feel good songs better than REM, I think. Yeah. And they have this weird way of actually writing sometimes quite almost like, melancholic lyrics over these amazing upbeat tunes. and you're singing along, you're dancing, you think, God, this is actually quite. If I was reading this out, I guess it's a bit like the whole Smiths thing. Some of Morris's lyrics are terribly depressing, but some of the songs are really upbeat and But so for me, I'm going to go, rather than the probably slightly more predictable Automatic for the People, I'm going for Out of Time.
I mean,
which is 91.
91. It's an amazing 1-2 punch, those two albums. To come up with an album. I mean, again, we've got a duplicate there. I've got it a little bit further up in my top 10 Out of Time, because it was that album. It's like a gateway album for me. It was you love the album and then you start going backwards. And I can remember they did a MTV Unplugged, and they did things like Perfect Circle, I think was one of the songs.
Oh, that's
Fall on Me. Fall on Me was another.
Fall on Me.
So then you go back.
35 years old today, I think.
Is it? That's mental. So you go back.
I think
and you go back and you think, oh my God, where have this band been? Because you sort of they break on the scene, especially in England, and you think, oh my God, this is their debut album, and then you realise they've been going like 10 years before.
But you keep counting back, and you go back to Green before that.
That's right.
And then Document before that, and then Life's. I think it's Reckoning possibly. Or no, it might be Life's Rich Pageant before that. I get those two mixed up. And it's just all brilliant. It's just so many good songs.
Yeah, yeah. They are one of those consistently good. But a little bit like U2 as well, where they just change a little bit.
Sadly gone and with no intentions of returning.
No, which is a shame. Yeah. Which is a shame. All right, and Neil, what's your number 9?
Madonna's Ray of Light. I just think is a great album. Still holds up today. I was a bit of a fan of Madonna in the 80s. Who wasn't? Pop princess who fancied her. And then sort of the early 90s, with the True Blue, was that early 90s? Sort of.
I think that was late 80s, I think.
Yeah, but the one that she was sort of still in that pop phase, I didn't enjoy them as much, and then this album came out, and it was, what's his name, wasn't it? William Orbital?
William Orbit.
Orbit, wasn't it?
William Orbit, yeah.
Did it, and it was such a change again for her, with just the singles out of it. Great singles, a whole new thing for her, reinventing herself, wasn't she? The queen of reinvention. Yeah. And I just think it still holds up as a blinding album. Blinding album.
Good choice. For number 9, I've gone. So I want to get especially your view on this, Leon, being a hard rocker like you are.
Right.
I've gone for Keep the Faith, Bon Jovi. Now I played the shit out of this album, and again, a bit like REM in the fact that their next album, These Days, again was a fantastic album, was a great album. So, how is Bon Jovi looked at? Because when I look back at them now, it's almost like they're a bit of a parody band.
Yeah,
does that make sense? It's sort of like, and I've seen footage of John Bon Jovi singing now, and his voice is completely shot. At the
wedding.
Yeah, well, no, it was a gig, and he's trying to sing Always, and his voice is just completely gone, and it is really sad to see. But some great songs. What's Bon Jovi like in the pantheon of like rock acts?
I don't know. Yeah, they've almost become a little bit. It's a bit old and cheesy and time to hang up. Yeah. What I don't understand is bands like that have almost kind of been written off, but you still get bands like Def Leppard who are touring, doing massive sellout stadium tours, and Vegas. I think they had a residency over there, one of the places over there. And I don't really get it. I almost like Bon Jovi. I think they just wore out their welcome. I don't really know. But I mean, I was listening. Ian, who I'm in the band with, was a massive Bon Jovi fan. So I grew up listening to a lot of it by default, right back to the first self-titled album, which is like very early 80s. And there's some really great tunes on it. Funny enough, a lot of the ones I like are not necessarily the mainstream cheesy ones, but if you listen to New Jersey, which is the forerunner to Keep the Faith, there's some belting tunes on it. There's some really good stuff on there.
Yeah.
But Keep the Faith, like you say, was the one where they disappeared for a little bit. I think I remember Ian talking about there was rumours of the band splitting and it all going, pear-shaped. And then all of a sudden they come back and they all look different. And he's got this signature haircut.
Yeah.
And he looks the bollocks. He looks really cool. And the band have got, Keep the Faith, what a song. I mean, it's an awesome song, isn't it?
There's some.
It's
a fantastic album. There's again, it's like one of those albums where there isn't a dud song on there. There really
I didn't like the follow up so much.
What these days?
Yeah, well, some of the songs, there are some good songs. The one I can't stand Always. I hate it.
Nah, yeah, I can see that.
And it's been played to death. And I just but there are some. Is it that one that's got is it Dry Country on it and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's it.
There's some cracking tunes on that album. There's some really good stuff on it.
Lost Highway, and another one that's got, but it's sort of like diminished returns. You know, like Keep the Faith is like, I think, got great songs all the way through it, and then the next one These Days has got 2 or 3 that are fillers.
Yeah.
And then the Lost Highway, there's some Seat Next to You is a beautiful song, absolutely beautiful. And then he does also does one with Leanne Rimes, some great sort of love songs on there. But then there's like 5 or 6 that you class as fillers. It's sort of like each album as it goes has got less and less of the good songs on it. It's just interesting because I feel like Def Leppard as well. It's almost like you could class them as almost a Spinal Tap kind of band.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I mean? It's sort of almost like they're taking the piss out of it rather than.
The trouble is, it's very dated, and some of that music hasn't. The music has, but the visuals haven't aged well.
Exactly.
The music's to a point, because I guess that's one of the things about rock music. It seems almost ageless to a point. Apart from the changes with technology and different sounds, it's very. It's quite similar, and it's big guitar solos, big drums solos, and all the other stuff. But visually, it's got the 80s were particularly, all the spandex and
big hair
stuff. Big hair. It's got a little bit corny now, But yeah, anyway, yeah. So good choice, man.
There you go. Have you done your number 9, Neil?
I did. It was Madonna.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. So Leon, then you're number 8.
Right. So number 8, then I'm going to go for a corker. This is a band that I heard on the album before. This is their second album, and this is Reef and Glow, which was 97. Now, I first heard Reef when they did a song called Naked for. Do you remember the Sony mini disc advert? There was when the Sony mini disc first came out. There was a band recording. There's a guy and he can hear it from window, and he's walking along, and there's a band recorded, and they're playing live, and they drop their demo out the window. It gets knocked out the window, and he picks it up. And it's the whole idea that it's quite versatile. This mini disc, drops on the floor, and the guy picks it up, puts it in his player, and carries on listening to it.
Oh right.
And they were Sony's big band. They were using them to sell their new toy, and the album, which was Replenish, the first album. Great album, but they followed it up with Glow in 97, which had the big one, Place Your Hands on It, Come Back Brighter, You're Old, all these other, it's another one of those iconic albums of the time. If you know Reef and you know the songs, it's not a bad song on the whole album. It's an absolute blinder. And I've seen them several times off the back of that album and what followed. Yeah, great, good band, good album.
They're one of those.
Gary Stringer's got.
Yeah,
what a voice.
He has it, and it's got better and better. If you listen to him now, his voice is it's insane. His vocal range, it's nuts.
I feel like they're a quintessential 90s band.
Yeah,
because they had the whole 90s look.
Yeah. Well, they had. I say every time you think of what's his name? What was the Chris Evans thing?
Yeah,
TFI Friday.
Right, Neil, what's your number 8?
So it's REM, but it's Monster, The Change.
I
just absolutely love this album. I know it's
good album again.
It does split people still, but it was the change from their acoustic sort of style into
a lot heavier, wasn't it? Yeah. A lot heavier.
I love the track, the Frequency Kenneth. It's
it's a blinder.
What a track still. What a track. But yeah, that would, I was umming and ahhing whether to put it higher, but I thought, no, there's others on the list. But I'll talk more about REM later on in the list, I think.
Okay, then.
All right.
Okay. So for me, number 8 is Sing When You're Winning, Robbie Williams. It's not my favourite Robbie album, definitely because his next one, Escapology, I think came out at the start of the 2000s, and it's when he's with Guy Chambers. That's when he is at his tops. And there's some fantastic tunes on this album. And I felt he was one of those 90s, again, phenomenons. You know, he left Take That. And it was always expected that Gary Barlow would be the one that would go off and have amazing success. And he didn't. I think even he was expecting to get amazing success and almost didn't try. Whereas Robbie Williams started from the very start, you know, people saying that he was never going to make it. And he became a bona fide pop star. I've got a bit of a love-hate related. I'll go in waves where I'll listen to his stuff and then I'll get too much of him and feel, no, he's too much up his own ass. And then I'll not listen to it. And then I'll fall in love with a lot of his stuff again. But I think he deserved a mention. So I'm, and I'm not as cool as you two guys with your music choices. So I thought I'll put Robbie in there. So, you know, 3 gone, and I've already got Robbie and Spice Girls. I think I'm looking pretty good.
I mean, Robbie probably was one of the biggest selling, well, at least touring. Was it Nebworth he did in the 90s?
Yeah,
Nebworth. Two gigs there. Yeah,
not many people can claim to do that, could they?
No, not at all. So yeah, I think he deserves a place in the top 10. Leon, you're number 7.
Right, number 7. I'm going for Faith No More and Angel Dust.
Okay.
Which is an absolute corking album. I mean, I must have played this to death. The one, what was the album before? It's popped up in my head now. I can't think of the album before. It's popped up in my head now. I'll get it in a minute. But the album before it's very, very different. You've got From Out of Nowhere and Epic and stuff on it.
That's the song I know from Faith.
Yeah, Mike Patton's got this kind of high sort of squeaky voice in it, and then all of a sudden Angel Dust comes out, and it's almost like he's a different guy singing. He's completely changed. He's a different sort of, you know, pitch in how he's singing, and the songs are just seem. It seems like a band that really got a foothold, and they are. I mean, it's a killer album. You got Midlife Crisis was a big one on it. Small Victory. What else was on it? Probably the one everyone knows off of it, which is funny that not their own songs. They did a cover of Easy by the Commodores.
That's the other one I remember, yeah.
But it's another album. I don't know how many tracks are on it, 12 songs or whatever, and there's not a bad song on it. It's an absolute corking album. It's lots of experimental but very cool songs on it. I played it to death. Still love it.
It's weird because that song Epic always reminds me of Los Angeles. But,
right.
Because me and my brother went to Los Angeles, went to America in 1990, I think it was. Yeah, right. It was for my 21st birthday. And back in the day, kids, before you had iPods, you could go to a shop. And you could make a compilation CD. So you would choose what tracks you wanted, and you had to choose 10 tracks for like $25 or something. It was fucking ridiculous, the price. And I remember thinking, I know that song. I'm going to put that song. I was trying to find songs that reminded me of America. So I put in I Love LA or We Love LA, whatever it is. The Randy Newman song. You Win Again by the Bee Gees for some fucking reason. And
that's very American. Yeah,
and Epic by Faith No More. And it was real weird. I wish I could find that CD. I don't know where it is.
Well, the album, just for information, the album's 92.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you for that, Leon. No, that's cool. I love
just to prove it was
as many statistics as possible. That's what we love. Neil, what's your number 7?
It'd be Moby and Play. I just think, well, what an album that is. I know it's very late 90s, but still a stalwart on my record disc, as record player, as they would say. I know each track is a single and each track's been played to death, and he sold it, to me, wisely. He made himself enough money out of there to do what the fuck he wants whenever. Sold nearly every record on that album for movies, for adverts and everything. But it hasn't tainted it, and I still think it's awesome. Awesome album.
See, that's somebody I've never been able to get into, is Moby.
No?
No.
What about you, Leon?
Yeah, I like that. There's some really good tracks on that album. It's very mellow. I like the one that followed as well.
That was 13.
Is that the one, We Are Made of Stars?
Yeah, was it 13 or something like that?
That's a great track.
Yeah,
I love that. He has done some really good tunes.
You know, and I think he's forgotten what he did. I mean, his headline set at Glastonbury, I'm going to talk about that when he did that. I know that was in the 2000s, but I think the guy stole the weekend, personally.
I think that's another thing about his is, again, it's one of those artists, it hasn't sort of, doesn't sound dated.
No, not at all, does it?
It sounds quite sort of, you know, it's quite universal in its sound.
Porcelain, so, yeah, you must know that song.
Yeah,
well,
I know Porcelain,
from the beach.
What I was going to say is, would I listen to a lot of his stuff and think, oh God, that song, I recognize that song.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
from that movie or from that TV show or that advert or whatever it is. That's probably what it would be with me with Moby.
It probably would, but like Leon said, it's probably one of the chillest albums I think ever.
Neil, sing me one
of
Porcelain
you could pass out to. It really is quite mellow.
I'm not singing any of his songs.
Go do do.
Woman.
There you go.
Oh, that one. Oh, I love that one. Yeah, that one. Right, my number 7 is The Man Who by Travis.
Ooh, good shout.
Mainly because when I was back in whatever year it came out, and when I used to play Football Manager all the time, so in the corner of our bedroom, I'd have my headphones on and I'd be listening to The Man Who from start to finish, right even to the very last track when you hear the car going and walking on the gravel and the little extra track at the end that if you just let it play and it'll all of a sudden start playing. I think it's Slideshow, isn't it? I think the very last song. But a great album. I love Fran Healy and I love him as a songwriter. I think he's done some there's an album that they had out a couple of years ago, and there's a song called Animal, I think it's called.
They've got a new one out now, haven't they?
Have they got a new one out now? Have they?
I think they got a new one out now. Yeah.
They got, and what I also love is that they do great videos as well with a lot of
they're very quirky, aren't they?
Yeah, very quirky. And Fran Healy is I think he's a great songwriter. Really, a good.
Yeah.
Right then, number 6, then Leon.
Right, number 6. We're going full rock for this one. This is Metallica's Black album.
Right. Okay.
Which was literally as a young sort of 17, 18-year-old metaler with the hair everywhere. When this came out, I died and gone to heaven. This was, I didn't know a lot of Metallica stuff. I knew bits and bobs, but when this album came out, it was everywhere. You've got Enter Sandman, and you've got Nothing Else Matters, and The Unforgiven, and Sad But True, and all these other, and it right from the off, this album, it just punches you in the face. When it starts off with that, there's Enter Sandman riff, and then jump, it comes in, and it's like somebody taking a hammer and smash you in the face with it. and it does go into, but it's a freight train of an album. But there's so many good songs on it, and now a lot of people, the early Metallica fans, said it was a bit too polished, and they like the earlier sort of more kind of underground kind of
the Dave Mustaine years.
yeah, exactly. You've got Ride the Light in and Kill 'Em All and this kind of stuff, and there's some great stuff on it. But this was a bit more. I guess it was an album more for the mainstream. I wasn't particularly fond of what followed, really, of Load and all the other ones, but it's a cracking album. And it's on my list probably because back then I played it over and over. I got all the singles and I got the gatefold and I got, you name it, I got it. So, and I went to see him at Milton Keynes on the tour that followed in 92, because this is another album of 1991. And they were just amazing. Just incredible band. So, yeah. So that's
they're having a retrospective now, aren't they? Because old Miley's released one of Nothing Else.
That's right. Well, the Black album, they've just released a 30th anniversary with loads of outtakes and extra songs, and there's one version you can buy different levels of the pack you get. There's one and it's literally got everything but the kitchen sink in it. It's I can't God knows how much money it is, but it's you name it, you get everything.
Well, I do feel like I'm a little bit trendier now because I bought Nothing Else Matters on CD single. It's a great song, and again the video is them. So I think it's footage of them playing it live, isn't it? Like in the studio.
I think there's
different
footage,
takes of it and stuff.
That's right, part of them live and part of them in the studio.
Yeah, but it's a great song. I can remember the Freddie Mercury concert I think they didn't
That's
they open
right.
it, or they were very early on.
They were early.
I
in
think
on
so,
the
yeah.
set,
And
weren't
they did nothing. That was when I first heard it. A great song,
Mm.
great song. Right, Neil, you're number 6.
This is where I struggled. So I got 2, but I will try and nail it down. So first off, I had Automatic for the People with REM. I was a huge REM fan in the 90s. Really enjoyed their stuff, and even was lucky enough to see them play at Glastonbury in '99. And probably still up there with one of the best gigs. So that album, I mean, it is iconic, isn't it? It's an iconic album. But then again, I had Radiohead, The Bends, because again, it's another album that I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know where to go. There he goes. So it's one of those two, and I really can't make my mind up.
So
Radiohead, The Bends is probably the most accessible Radiohead album to me for anybody.
It's an awesome album.
It is. I mean, Fake Plastic Trees, what a beautiful song. Street Spirit.
Street Spirit, well, personal favourite of mine.
Absolutely gorgeous song. No, Pav? Never tried The Bends?
No, look.
You've never heard, right?
No,
never heard.
I have. I spent a whole afternoon at work, one afternoon a few months ago, just listening to Radiohead because I wanted to say, right, I've always said I don't get them, so I thought I'm going to give them a try, and I still don't get them. I don't understand. I don't understand.
The Bends is the most accessible album.
Right, well then, and I obviously just don't get them because that was the album that I was listening to. And
Really?
yes, all right, Creep and Fake Plastic Trees.
Creep's not on that one.
No, but I'm saying,
yeah,
I know
is Creep not on that album?
No, it was on the one before. Yeah, the one before it.
Yeah, in regards to what's the other one? No Surprises, is that one?
Oh, that's on OK Computer, I think.
Yeah. So I know a couple of their songs and I don't mind them, but listening to the albums, it just wouldn't penetrate me. Do you know what I mean? That sounds terrible. I know.
You're a man who likes to be penetrated.
I do.
And the other thing is they're not afraid to go their own direction, are they? Radiohead.
No. Have you seen their 8-9 version of Creep that they've released?
No, I've not.
Really?
Seen
Yeah,
it.
it's like it sounds like when you get your iPod or your phone and you put it on half speed. It is as slow as you can, and people are thinking that they're taking the piss. They're just thinking, well, we never do this song live, so we're just going to do a big long fucking version and it for everybody. So yeah, but if you love it, that's fine. I'm not going to look at you.
So which one did you actually go for then?
I don't know. I really can't make my mind up.
Or you must choose. You must.
Yeah, you have
when
to.
I come to my top 10, I will choose.
So does that mean that the other one is your number 5?
No. Because I've got ones I listen to more.
So you mean that one of them is either number 6 or completely out of your top 10?
I'm going to knock it out because
that makes no fucking sense at all. That makes no sense.
Do you think if it would be the next one down?
Yeah, you think it'd be your number 7.
Right, well, I'm not the next one.
No, I'm not telling you to do it. In my mind, that if it doesn't make number 6, it doesn't make any part of your top 10.
No, because the other ones are ones that I listen to more.
Right, okay.
As I explained to you, it's albums that I listen to.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's your top 10. I don't want to make you get rid of them. Anyway, my number 6, What's the Story, Morning Glory. Oasis, again, a little bit like Spice Girls and Robbie Williams. The 90s were their time. And I was, at that time, I was totally taken away with the whole Oasis versus Blur thing, the whole just being an Oasis fan, buying every cassette or every CD single, because every CD single was like a mini album, because it'd have 2 or 3 fantastic songs on the CD single, that you'd never heard before. And obviously that album is the one that's got, it's not just the hits, but Cast No Shadow. It's just got so many great songs. So that's all I'll say about Oasis for the time being on that one.
The sad thing for me, I'll jump in on that. The sad thing for me is I probably would have liked Oasis more, because I was never really a fan back in the day, if Liam Gallagher hadn't been. Yeah. I couldn't stand it. I just think he's an arrogant twat.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stand his voice. It's that drone he does, that twangy drone. And it just that. Every time I hear that, it makes my hairs on my neck go up. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But I can't deny that there's a lot of amazing songs they've written. Well, his brother's written over the years.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
But I get why it's there.
Yeah. Okay.
On the list.
Indeed. Number 5 for you then, Leon.
5 for me, Soundgarden. Rupert commented earlier on there has to be a Soundgarden album. It has to be Super Unknown. What a fucking album. First album I really got into Soundgarden. I heard Spoon Man, funny enough, before Black Hole Sun, which was the big. I heard Spoon Man. I thought, what the hell is this? Vocally, I mean, Chris Cornell. There aren't many people who can match that. His vocal range is insane. The songs are just, again, it's another album. It just smashes you in the face from the moment you hear it, and there's quite a lot of tracks on it. I think it's about 14 to 15 tracks. Again, there's not a bad track on the album, and it displays amazing songwriting. The lyrics are great, vocals are great. That one is 94, just so it proves in the 90s again. So again, I listened to that, and I will say I tried to previous bands I've been in. We attempted a couple of songs off of that, but most of them I couldn't get anywhere near his vocal range. But a real sad loss to the music world. Chris Cornell, amazing songwriter and musician. But that to me is, a lot of people would go for the album before, which is I can't remember what it's called now, Motor Bad Finger or something like that. That's I didn't know that so well, but it's a belter. It's a cracking album. Wore it out.
Yeah, I've got nothing to say on Soundgarden because I think it's only Black Hole Sun that I think I've ever heard of theirs.
Probably a little bit too maybe a little bit too heavy for your tastes. I don't know, but
yeah.
But what, like,
no.
What you mean, like Spice Girls? You mean, or
yeah? Well, I didn't. I agree with you said the imaging was nice. I mean, they a couple of them, they looked quite good, didn't they? I ain't saying them on that.
No.
Leon, you should have heard the day that I played Korn on the radio for Pav.
Oh my God.
Korn, yeah, they did some great songs. Korn,
yeah, but
was that the one that was going Nick Nack Paddywhack?
Yeah.
Was it that one?
Yeah, that's not one I know. The first thing I heard of Korn was "Freak on a Leash."
Yeah,
and there's a great video. It's an amazing video.
Right.
I heard "Freak on a Leash" and I thought, this is nuts, but it's great. You just couldn't get it out of your head.
Another band that was fucking awesome live. Fucking awesome live.
Is that on YouTube? Is it?
If you want to, right, I don't think you'll be into the song, right? But if you look at "Freak on a Leash" by Korn and look at the video is brilliant.
Okay.
It's a really clever video.
I'll have a little look at that later on, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
But you will hate it.
Okay.
But you will, I'm fairly confident you will hate it.
Have an afternoon of Korn.
Oh, God.
Afternoon of Korn.
Neil, you're number 5.
Right, I've made an executive decision. I'm moving things around. It's going to be automatic for the people because I don't want the flack. Like I said, I've got a lot of time for that. And the song "Everybody Hurts," when it was used on every fucking charity thing and every solemn bit, and it sort of tainted that song a bit for me. And I've sort of rediscovered it in the last couple of years, and how bloody beautiful. And it's not a depressing song if you listen to it.
No,
at all.
It's a song of hope.
It is. It is. And
but
I've rediscovered it.
It was a 90s version of what Drive by the Cars was in the 80s.
Yeah, it just got used too much in those sort of things. So yeah, what a beautiful song. Beautiful song.
Good choice. Well, my number 5 is "Out of Time" by REM. So and
REM.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I think we've all had at least one REM album in our top 10s.
Oh, I've been greedy. I've had 2.
Yeah. I just think, again, like Leon said earlier on, it's just a classic album. I don't think there's a dud song on that album. It's and the hits, like you say, I think the hits made them sound like they were this really poppy, happy, jumpy kind of band, but they had a lot more, loads more layers to them than that.
Lyrically superb.
Yeah, and again, really interesting videos. You know, every again they changed with the times, changed their image a little bit, changed their sound a little bit, made everything sound fresh. So that's my number 5. Leon, your number 4.
My number 4, I'm going. This was I'm trying to remember who introduced me to this album. I think it might have been Andy Hughes, actually. And this again is another album from '91. Incidentally, fun fact, there are on my top 10, I when I looked them up for years, there are 5 albums that are all 91.
Wow.
And it just shows what an incredible year it was for music, because there were lots of others. You remember you were talking about the thing you'd seen, and there's only maybe a couple off of that list that are on my list.
Yeah.
So you actually look at it as a year. It was insane, the amount of incredible iconic albums that come out in that one year alone. But anyway, Andy Hughes introduced me to this band. He said, "You've got to check these guys out. This is amazing." And that is Rage Against the Machine, and their debut album, Rage Against the Machine. I'd never heard anything like it. What a guitar player, Tom Morello, doing some of the stuff he was doing. You're trying to figure out what the hell he's playing, how he's doing it. Zach de la Roche's vocals, I mean, they smash again. They're like a smash in the face, but they're really powerful. And once you start listening, there are people. I've heard of people going, "Oh, that's really vulgar. He's just this guy gobbing off." If you listen to what he's singing about,
yeah,
especially on tracks like "Wake Up," which they use at the end of The Matrix, and you listen to what he's talking about, it's heavily. I mean, it is. They're all politics, and I love that. You know, that's why I got into the early U2 stuff. I love the political side of it, and they're dishing out politics with spades, and it's good, and it's really intelligently written. People who think that he's just like this guy, "Oh, fuck you, and all this." If you listen to what he's singing about in between that, it's incredibly powerful stuff.
Right.
And you can tell he's a very, very well-read and smart man who's really got his finger on the pulse of what's going on and knows a lot of history, particularly about different things from, he talks about in Wake Up about, Martin Luther King being killed in the song. He says because of his views on Vietnam and it's just what it is. It's wake up, smell of coffee, America. You're having the wool pulled over your eyes and being fed bullshit. I mean, bullet in the head. I mean, what a song. Have you ever heard that?
No, I mean, listen, I might well have heard it and not known that.
If you listen to it, it's lyrically, it's very, very clever. The whole idea that we get plugged into the media, plugged into the TV, and they call it another victim of the in-house drive-by. They say jump, you say how high, and it's the whole idea that you just glue yourself to the TV and you believe what they're telling you, all the bullshit that they're telling you, because that's how we're brought up. That's what we're. But it's a belting album musically.
Right. There's a great video on YouTube of Tom Morello on stage with Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, that's right. He toured with him,
and the ghost of Tom Joad.
Yeah,
like a beefed up version, and you can see like Steve Van Zandt and that watching Tom Morello going, "What the fuck is he doing with that guitar?" And they're all just playing like the same chords, trying to keep up with him. And like Bruce Springsteen does a couple of like instrumentals, and you can see that he's like really trying to be intricate, and then Tom Morello just comes on and starts doing all this with his fingers up and down the fretboard.
It's insane what he does.
And there's some of the guys who are obviously like near 60 or whatever, probably older, looking at him going, "What a fucking noise, what the fuck, just oh god." But it's amazing. It is amazing because, like you say, he makes his guitar not sound like a guitar.
Yeah, I mean, there's some clever effects and things going on, but you've got to know how to use them, and you've got to know
exactly.
And you still got to use the techniques. you don't get it just by switching on a button and all of a sudden the magic happens. But the only thing about that album I think is a bit of a shame is that the song that everyone what's the I'm having a blank spot. The big track off of that, which was Killing in the Name of.
Yeah.
So, of course, everybody jumps on that. And, of course, for anyone who's maybe not into the band, it gives them lots of fuel for, this is just a load of bands shouting and screaming and swearing for 2 minutes at the end. It's nowhere near the best track on the album.
Right.
And there's a lot more depth.
That it knocked the old
Yeah.
That was quite
Yeah.
funny.
But it's that's why I would say to anyone, give the album a chance because there's some amazing music on it. And nobody. That was the thing I loved about it. I can't think of anything else in and around at the time that sounded anything like it.
No.
And it instantly, you know them straight away when you hear them, even before any vocals or anything come in. It's completely their sound, and you know, at a time where you're being flooded with music and so much of it, to come out with something that's completely different and new is quite an achievement, really. But anyway, so that's 91, and that's my number 4.
Nice. Neil, your number 4.
Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. What a great album. What a great debut album. And tracks on it. I don't know whether you're fans of hers. Some people aren't.
Yeah, it's a good album.
I don't think she ever achieved what she achieved in that album again. And what a find by Madonna, wasn't it? She was the one that signed her.
Really?
On her original record label that she did, Maverick Labels. So that was with Warner.
I know that.
And I don't know. I still think that album, it's another one that's timeless, you know, and great lyrically. You think about, you know, You Ought to Know and
Ironic.
I mean, all right, it's been taking the piss out of, but if you listen to it there, it's a wonderful song. It's a great
It's
song.
a great song. It's just, it's not that much irony in it.
No.
It should be called Sod's Fucking Law. That's the lyrics.
But I just think, and I think it's a great album. I still feel it holds up, and kudos to Alanis there for that one.
And of course, she was God. She was God.
She was
in
Dogma.
In Dogma,
and
made me a believer for 5 minutes.
She was the master of her own destiny as well, wasn't she? She was all on her own doing that. She went out and she was like the first sort of to me that brought sort of a rockier side to the female vocal, you know, as a solo artist out. I think it's a great album. Absolutely.
What about Joan Jett and the Blackhearts?
She didn't really write.
But she loved rock and roll.
Put another dime in the jukebox.
Exactly. Okay, then my number 4 is I did mention it in my intro, but seriously, Phil Collins. And another thing is, I don't think people realize now just again how massive he was in the 90s.
Yeah,
no, because I thought it was more 80s, wasn't it?
Realised more in the 80s, but
in the 90s you had like Genesis with their like We Can't Dance album. They were selling out Wembley. Phil Collins was selling out Wembley. Buster, the movie.
Was that in the 90s? Was it?
Was that?
That was late. That was 88. So that was late. 80s,
oh, was it? Well, I mean, that's nearly 90s, isn't it? You know, it would have been out on, it would have been out on video in the 90s, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that's fine. But he was massive, and I think But Seriously was that's when he was at his actual peak. And I think for the first 4 or 5 songs of that album.
Is that I got like what's the one?
Another Day in Paradise.
Yes, that's it.
There's some great songs on that album, and I think again, just for who he was at that particular time, I loved a lot of his solo
He's still
stuff.
one of the top selling artists ever, isn't he?
Yeah. No Jacket Required, another great album. Hello, I Must Be Going, another great album. He does some great albums. Yeah, I'm interested about my number 3. I want to see what you're saying about my number. Okay, that's my number 4. Leon, your number 3.
Okay, number 3. So this is top end of the night. This is 99. I first saw this band. I think it was Top of the Pops was still going then, and I saw them playing a song which was off of the previous album, and I'd heard it, and then I kind of lost track with them, and I remember seeing Richard Branson talking about his new label, which is the Virgin label V or whatever he called it. And he mentioned the band again, and I couldn't remember who they were. And he said, keep a lookout for this band. They got a new album out. It's going to be big. I heard the first track, which I think was, it was Bartender and the Thief, Stereophonics, Performance and Cocktails. And that was it. I was just hooked. And I bought the album, and I must have played that album to, just so many times. There's not one bad song on it. It's an absolute masterpiece. And what I love about it is some of the actual guitar work on it. It's quite simplistic, but he's doing it. There's always that thing about when you write a song, the space in between is just as important as what you're actually playing.
Yeah.
And that album is just a perfect example of that. There are songs on there like Plastic California. My personal favourites on there is Yesterday, Tomorrow, Today. And it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful song. But it's just, I think what I like it feels it's very homegrown. There are a bunch of guys from a little town in the middle of nowhere in Wales, and just by total luck, they were playing the town they live in. They call it they call it the Goldfish Bowl because of the hills that's around. There's only one road in, one road out, middle of nowhere, little Welsh community. And one day they were playing like an open mic, or a talent show in one of the bigger towns down the road, and just by chance there was a music agent around, and all of a sudden they found that they were the next big thing. And what I like about it is they write about real things. Feels very homegrown. They're writing about characters and people that they grew up with and small town life. And it feels very personal because of that. You really feel like you're getting a real snapshot of their life and them growing up. Really great characters, Bartender and the Thief, if you listen to the song, it's just great lyrically. It's a blinder. Love it.
And Just Looking, what a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I know it's been another one that's been played to death on all sorts of weird and wonderful things, but if you reevaluate it, it's a beautiful song. It really is.
Okay.
That's my number 3.
That's your number 3. Neil, your number 3.
You're going to love this one, Pav. OK Computer.
Hey!
I can remember the first time I listened to it, and I thought, what the fuck are we doing here? But it took that little bit, that second listen and delve into it to really appreciate what it was. Paranoid Android. It's just all of it.
You're not talking about the Prince, are you, by any chance?
But yeah,
sorry,
I don't know. I don't know what you think about Radiohead, Leon. I know I've certainly dealt with Pav and Radiohead.
I like Radiohead. I'm not what you call a diehard fan, but some of their stuff I can really appreciate musically. I think the trouble is songs like Creep have been like, people think that's the only song they've ever done. One of my first songs I heard, I think it was Just. The video is really intriguing. There's a guy led on the floor. They walk over and ask him what's wrong, and they say, "I can't tell you." Yeah, it's just a kick-ass song. I love the way it plays. I love the guitar work in it. For me, the Bends, like you say, some great tracks. I play Street Spirit. I love that song. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful song. But OK Computer. I mean, what was the first? Karma Police.
Karma Police was their first single.
What a track. I mean, lyrically, it's nuts. You listen to his lyrics, but they're so clever. I wish I could write lyrics like that.
And it was, you can see that, their experimentalness of the whole thing is just, I think it's brilliant. I absolutely think it's brilliant.
Yeah, good shout.
I love the fact that they're still changing it up now, and they give back to their fans. They'll rock up where they come from in Oxford and play a little pub just for their fans. I think it's a beautiful thing to give back to them. Love to go and see them do it, but hey ho.
Nah.
But go on, Pav. Try again.
Okay, no, let's move on. My number 3 is Tubular Bells 2, Mike Oldfield.
Is this serious?
That is deadly serious.
Are you serious?
Deadly serious. Now, I can remember he did Tubular Bells 2 live at Edinburgh Castle, and it was live on the BBC, and there were like 20 odd musicians, and I'd never heard Tubular. I'd heard of it, and I'd obviously heard the bits of it that are on The Exorcist, the original Tubular Bells.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued, and then I just devoured it. I bought the CD or whatever, or the cassette or whatever it was, and played it over and over again. And it is a beautiful piece of work. And to watch him and all of his musician friends do it live is just mesmerizing, because you've got all these top class musicians, and it is literally exactly the same as the recording, and it seems to be, I mean, not for someone like you, Leon, who can play intricate stuff on a guitar.
I can't play like Mike Oldfield. So,
But it's amazing. It's amazing. And then I listened back to the original Tubular Bells and was really disappointed with it because it just sounded flat and sounded sparse. And I know that's obviously the one that the Tubular Bells 2, because it's basically like a remake of it, a re-recording of it. But it's just, there's some beautiful pieces of music on it. And I listened back to it about 2-3 weeks ago and still find it like beautiful. Some parts of it are just absolutely beautiful.
Well, I think that's interesting you saying about that, because I say some of the ones on my list are albums that certainly back in the day I played to death. You know, I was playing them all the time. But some of them now I don't play as much, but they had a massive impact on me in the 90s. I mean, like the Metallica album, I don't really play that anymore. I guess you know, that's probably actually one of the ones I don't. Some of the other ones I probably do. That's probably one of the only ones I don't play so much. Maybe a couple of others, which we'll get to. But anyway, but yeah.
I'd forgotten that was even a thing, Tubular Bells 2.
Well, I think he's done a Tubular Bells 3, and then he's releasing another Tubular Bells. Like,
it's not going to be 4, is it?
It might be. It might be. Right then, Leon, you're number 2.
Number 2, I really struggled between 1 and 2 because both of them had such a massive impact on me, and I was torn to give them like both first place, but I can't. So I've got to go first place with the album that, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So again, this is 91 again. I remember going on a drive down to Southampton with Pete, a friend of mine, Pete Monk, and he put this cassette. He said, I've copied this cassette. He'd recorded it off of the mate or off of the album or whatever. And we played it, and he introduced me to the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And I listened to it, and I thought, what the fuck is this? And the more I listened to it, I thought, this is just insane. What the hell is going on with the bass? It's all over the place. You know, I didn't really like rap music, but all of a sudden I'm listening to this guy, you know, singing about dicks and stuff all the time, every 5 minutes. But there's some really good kind of, again, a bit of a political edge in some of the Power of Equality stuff.
Yeah.
Some really great, there's some ballads on it, you know, Under the Bridge, things like this, but really meaningful lyrics. I think it's easily one of the finest albums. I know, you know, people will disagree. I think easily one of the finest albums. Whoops. Still there?
We're still there,
yeah, so my battery power's gone down to 20. So that's how we go. Right. So it's easily one of the best albums of the decade. So I still love that album and could play it over and over and never get bored of it. It's got everything. It's got great musicianship. It's got fun, laughs, swinging dicks. It's got the whole shebang.
Right, we'll move on so we don't, so we can get everything in before the
That's all right.
Runs out. Neil, you're number 2.
Nirvana, Nevermind.
Okay.
What an album. What is there to say? I mean, I don't know whether you're a fan of Nirvana at all, Pav, but
I can take him or leave him.
You know, when it first crashed in and it Smells Like Teen Spirit, that song, I was like, what is this? It's not really heavy metal. It was a new genre, and obviously
it was a new
genre that came out. And not a bad track on the album. It's an album I'll keep listening to. There's nothing more to say. Everybody should own a copy of Nevermind. That's it.
I haven't got a copy of Nevermind.
We'd get one.
Okay, I will.
No comment.
Yeah. You're not a Nirvana fan?
No comment.
All right, okay. My number 2 is Acton Baby.
Oh wow! I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I was the same as you, Leon. I loved the whole Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, the movie, Where the Streets Have No Name in that movie.
Oh, what a
just when the Ed starts playing and the lights are flashing, what a great start to a gig. You know, and then
you're on about Rattle and Hum.
Yeah,
with the red backdrop.
Yeah, and then
I watched him in '89 in Paris when he walked on stage doing that. And I was 16 years old and I had tears in my eyes.
When all the band come in, and then
just amazing.
The lights go on the crowd. What a fucking spine tingling moment.
Yeah.
So when this album came out and The Fly was the first single, right from that first down, I thought, what the fuck is this? And I loved from the very start. And the fact that this album has got the song that I want played at my funeral, which is One, which to me is one of the greatest songs ever recorded, written. It is just a beautiful, simple, but such an emotional song. There are so many great songs on this album. Obviously, it's my favorite U2 album. And yeah, my number two movie.
Good choice, man. Good choice.
Yeah. Right. So, Leon, if you want to count down from your 10 to number 2.
Okay. So, 10 to number 2. So, number 10 is Delamitri and Twisted. Number 9 is REM's Out of Time. 8 is Reef and Glow. 7 is Faith No More with Angel Dust. 6 is Metallica's Black Album, the Black Album. 5 is Soundgarden and Super Unknown. 4 is Rage Against the Machine and Rage Against the Machine, a debut album. 3, Stereophonics, Performance and Cocktails. And at number 2, the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Nice. And Neil, you're 10 to 2?
So number 10 is U2's Actung Baby. Popular choice there. Number 9, Madonna, Ray of Light. Number 8, REM Monster. Number 7, Moby with Play. Number 6, Radiohead, The Bends. Number 5, Automatic for the People, REM. Number 4, Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. Number 3, Radiohead, OK Computer. Number 2, Nirvana, Nevermind. You need to own a copy.
My number 10 is Spice by Spice Girls. Number 9, Keep the Faith, Bon Jovi. 8, Sing When You're Winning, Bon Jovi, Robbie Williams. 7, The Man Who, Travis. 6, What's the Story, Morning Glory, Oasis. 5, Out of Time, REM. 4, But Seriously, Phil Collins. 3, Tubular Bells, 2, Mike Oldfield. And number 2, Actung Baby by U2. So, Leon, what's your number 1 album of the 90s?
Okay, so this is the album for me, define the 90s. It was so massive. I think I just got into maybe the second year at college, and this was everywhere. I owned a cassette, which I actually broke. I wore it out and stretched it and had to buy a second one. Used to play this. It is, of course, Nirvana, Nevermind. It had to be there because it was a real game changer. And all of a sudden it was like, the 90s are here. This is it. This is the decade of music. And people are just, what the fuck is this? You know, this just kind of angry, almost kind of like, it's not well, grunge. I don't know what it is. It's the only second thing angrier than punk, isn't it? You know, it's sort of, it's like you said, Neil, that there's not a bad track on the whole album. Its production is superb. It's got everything. It's got everything you want. And for somebody, again, I was just starting to learn to play the guitar in 91. And it was, I remember sitting in my room smashing along power chords to this for the first couple of years in the 90s, when this came out. It is iconic. It's about as iconic an album as I can think for the 90s, really.
Oh, well, I mean,
I don't really know.
Yeah, you can't get any more succinct than that, can you? I should get it, I suppose. Now, at least have a listen to it, maybe.
Well, that's the trouble. It's kind of, you listen to it now. I listen to it now, and I maybe don't get it as much as I did then.
Right.
Because you've heard it since, and you've heard a lot of stuff that's similar or kind of changed since. It's a bit like if you listen to, Nevermind the Bollocks, the Sex Pistols. You listen to it now, and you think, oh yeah, what the fuss about? But when that came out, it was, wow, what the hell is this? So it's a time thing,
Yeah, that makes sense. Right, Neil, you're number 1.
Only one album for me beat Nevermind, and that was Pearl Jam's 10, the perfect debut album. And since then, Pearl Jam have been a stalwart of my life. I mean, hey, there you go. I've even got a tattoo for Pearl Jam. So, just a perfect album, every track. I just remember hearing Alive for the very first time before the album came out, Eddie Vedder's voice, and just thinking, holy shit, I haven't heard anybody like that before. And bought the album and never looked back, ever. It's just perfect in every way.
It's weird because that was the album I thought both of you would have in your top 10, right?
A big fan of Pearl Jam. Not quite so much. Again, I guess it would have been, if it had maybe done a top 15 or 20, I probably would have been in there.
Yeah.
Well,
I I made a point yesterday at work of listening to that album a couple of times.
What, the Pearl Jam album?
Yeah, because I've never listened to any Pearl Jam apart from Alive.
What did you
And
think?
What did you think? Yeah.
Same as Radiohead. I had no idea what the fuss was. Honest.
Oh,
Really?
man, there's no hope.
No, I was waiting for it to like. Do you know what I mean? To grab me as if like, well, fuck it, yeah, this is what I've been missing. Jesus, why have I not listened to this album before?
It's a time thing. I think if you
Yeah,
heard
I
it
think
at
you
the time,
left it too
it's
late.
very
Yeah,
fresh.
I think so. Right, I know I'm going to be ridiculed for my number one.
I'm going to take a guess at this.
Aqua.
Go on then. Go on.
No, I'm not going to take a guess, but I think artist-wise,
What do you think?
I'm having a quit.
Okay, well, it's Oasis, but it's Be Here Now.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this album before. You like this album?
Yeah, this was the last album that I think the day that I bought it, I took it to my sound system, whatever it was that I had that I was listening, put headphones on and listened to it like 3 times on the trot. Listened to the album, stopped, started at the start, listened again, stopped, and started again. And it's very self-indulgent. Even Noel Gallagher has admitted that, you know, like he spent way too long on it, spent way too much like trying to tart it up and stuff instead of letting the songs speak for themselves. But for me, that album is the 90s for me. I mean, I went to Nebworth and saw Oasis when I think they introduced 2 of the songs from this album. So you were like thinking, right, this is what their sound. And Alan McGee from Creation Records was saying, oh, they're going to sound like the Sex Pistols and all this bollocks, you know, just to build it up. But there are just some. I listen to it now and it still gives me the joy. Probably the same as like with both of your, you know, when you listen to Nirvana or Pearl Jam.
The thing is, I bought the remastered Nirvana on CD a couple of years ago, and I listened to it, and it was fun to listen to, but it didn't have anywhere near the same impact.
Right.
And that's why I know. Funnily enough, if I actually went back to my number 2, the Chili's, I could listen to that now, and I would love it just as much.
Yeah.
The Nirvana album, I love it because of how it made me feel at the time. And it takes you. I mean, that's what music does. It takes you back to a time, and you remember. Everybody remembers that first big album they bought or single, or where they were when they were listening to a particular song, sort of thing. And that's what I love about it. It was a huge part of my life for a couple of years, but now not so much, you know. But it's
the thing is, it's like you were saying about Liam Gallagher's voice. I don't think his voice has ever, before or after that album, sounded as good. Do you know? Take away the shine bits of it, but the actual how his voice sounded raw. It sounded just perfect for that album.
Yeah.
And even Noel Gallagher, he's the girl with the dirty shirt and Magic Pie and
Which
all around the
track
world.
That Johnny Depp played on.
Oh Christ! Now you're saying it was an instrumental one. Well, it wasn't instrumental. No, it had I can't remember what it's called. It's Shine. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, he does a bit of a slide guitar on it and stuff. So that's my number 1.
Fantastic. Cool. Well done.
There you go. Right, we had a few honorable mentions. Ross put I've Been Expecting You, Robbie Williams. Park Life.
Yeah, good shout.
Good Feeling, Travis. Different Class, Pulp. Playmobil, All Saints. Hormonally Yours, Shakespeare's Sister. And his number one was The Man Who, Travis. Stu Grant had Pearl Jam 10 and also Pearl Jam Versus, is that right?
Yeah, that was their second album. Yeah.
Okay. Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 2. The Prodigy, Music for the Jilted Generation. Chemical Brothers, Exit Planet Dust. That makes sense. I've not heard any of those albums, I have to say. Left Field, Soundgarden, Super Unknown.
Good
Alice in Chains, Dirt. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, and Metallica, the Black Album. That's what Stu said. And Sarah Badger, Radiohead, The Bends. Oasis, What's the Story? The Levelers, Leveling the Land.
Oh, yeah.
Pulp, Different Class. Robbie Williams, Life Through a Lens. Shakespeare's Sister, Hormonally Yours. My Life Story, Golden Mile. Any of those?
Don't know that. Everyone's going,
No. Counting
No.
Crows, August and everything after.
Oh, that's a good album, yeah.
Morcheeba, Big Calm, and also to finish it off, Take That, Everything Changes.
If you insist.
If you insist.
Yeah, if you insist.
So thank you very much for all of those. So that's it. Neil, do you want to just go through our little gubbins that we need to go through all the stuff?
Absolutely. You can find us on all the social media sites under Top 10 Pods. That's TOPTEN Pods. Email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods, where you can get rewards such as our episodes super early, bonus episodes, behind the scenes videos, and even a chance to be a guest on your own episode. Check out all of our links via Linktree. You can find the link in the show notes below. And please come and subscribe and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or subscribe and follow on Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever the hell you get your podcasts from.
Wonderful. There you go. That's our top 10 90s albums. Wonderfully done, Leon.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always nice to chat to you, mate. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Back to reality with a bang.
Back to reality with a bang.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Leon. Thank you. Neil.
Thank you, Pam.
See you again.
Thank you, everybody. And let's start the countdown. 10,